For whatever length of time that we have had jails, we have had jail getaway. This is a rundown of the 10 generally brave and astonishing breaks from jail ever. This adds to our assortment of wrongdoing-related records, for example, tips for getting away from the cops, tips for carrying out the ideal wrongdoing, and jail endurance tips. In the greatest jail escape in British history, on the 25th of September 1983 in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, 38 Irish Republican Army (IRA) detainees, who had been indicted for offences including murder and causing blasts, got away from Block 7, H7, of the jail. One jail official kicked the bucket of a coronary episode because of the break, and 20 others were harmed, including 2 who were fired with firearms that had been snuck into the jail. Him Prison Maze was viewed as one of the most getaway verification penitentiaries in Europe, notwithstanding 15-foot fences. Every H-block was included by an 18-foot solid divider bested with spiked metal, and all doors on the complex were made of strong steel and electronically operated. Shortly after 2:30, the detainees assumed responsibility for the H-square, holding the jail monitor's prisoner at gunpoint. A portion of the detainees took the gatekeeper's apparel and vehicle enters so as to help with their getaway. At 3:25, a truck bringing nourishment supplies showed up, and the detainees told the driver that he was going to enable them to get away. They attached his foot to the grip and revealed to him where to drive. At 3:50 the truck left the H-square, and not long after the jail, conveying each of the 38 men. Over the following barely any days, 19 escapees were gotten. The rest of the escapees were helped by the IRA in discovering concealing spots. A portion of the gathering wound up in the USA yet were later found and removed. Because of governmental issues in Northern Ireland, none of the rest of the escapees are in effect effectively looked for, and some have been given absolutions. Note the wires hung over the yard in the image above. This is to keep helicopters from arriving because of another getaway endeavour at Maze Prison. Alfie Hinds was a British crook and slick person. While carrying out a multi-year jail punishment for theft, effectively broke out of 3 high-security detainment facilities. In spite of the excusal of 13 of his interests to higher courts, he was in the long run ready to increase an acquittal utilizing his insight into the British lawful framework. In the wake of being condemned to 12 years in jail for a gems theft, Hinds got away from Nottingham jail by sneaking through the bolted entryways and over a 20-foot jail divider, for which he got referred to in the press as Houdini Hinds. After a half-year he was found and captured. After his capture, Hinds brought a claim against specialists accusing the jail chiefs of illicit capture, and effectively utilized the occurrence as a way to design his next break by having a latch pirated into him. While at the law courts, 2 gatekeepers accompanied him to the can. However, when they expelled his cuffs, Alfie packaged the men into the work area and snapped the latch onto screw eyes that his associates had before fixed to the entryway. He got away into the group on Fleet Street, however was caught at an air terminal 5 hours after the fact. Hinds would make his 3rd getaway from Chelmsford Prison not exactly a year later, while escaping Scotland Yard. Hinds kept on arguing his guiltlessness, sending reminders to British MPs and allowing interviews and taped chronicles to the press. He would keep on engaging his captor and following a detail in which jail escapes are not recorded as offences inside British law. His last intrigue before the House of Lords in 1960 was denied following a 3-hour contention by Hinds before his arrival to serve 6 years in Parkhurst Prison. Presented above is Nottingham Prison, the main jail that Hinds got away from. The Texas 7 was a gathering of detainees who got away from the John Connally unit close to Kennedy, Texas on December 13, 2000. They were secured January 21 to 23, 2001 as an immediate after-effect of the TV program America's Most Wanted. On December 13, 2000, the 7 completed an intricate plan and got away from the John B. Connally unit, a greatest security state jail close to the South Texas town of Kennedy. Utilizing a few all-around arranged ploys, the 7 convicts overwhelmed and limited 9 regular citizen support bosses, 4 prison guards and 3 uninvolved detainees at roughly 11:20 a.m. The escape happened during the slowest time of the day when there would be less reconnaissance of specific areas like the upkeep zone, during lunch and at tally time. The majority of these plans included one of the wrongdoers bringing somebody over, while another hit the clueless individual on the head from behind. When the casualty was repressed, the guilty parties would expel a portion of his dress, tie him up, choke him and spot him in an electrical room behind a bolted entryway. 11 jail laborers and 3 uninvolved prisoners were bound and choked. The aggressors took garments, charge cards, and recognizable proof from their victims. The bunch additionally mimicked jail officials on the telephone and made bogus stories to avert doubt from specialists. They in the long run advanced toward the jail upkeep pickup truck which they used to escape from the jail grounds. The staying 5 living individuals from the gathering are all waiting for capital punishment, anticipating passing by deadly infusion. Of the other 2, one ended it all and one has just been executed. Wetzler was a Slovak Jew, and one of few Jews known to have gotten away from the Auschwitz concentration camp during the Holocaust. Wetzler is known for the report that he and his kindred escapee, Rudolf Vierber, assembled about the internal activities of the Auschwitz camp, a ground plan of the camp, development subtleties of the gas loads, crematoriums and, most convincingly, a mark from a canister of Zyklon gas. The 32-page Vierber-Wetzler report, as it got known, was the primary point-by-point report about Auschwitz to arrive at the West that the Allies viewed as credible. The proof in the end prompted the besieging of a few government structures in Hungary, murdering Nazi authorities who were instrumental in the railroad expulsions of Jews to Auschwitz. The expulsions ended, setting aside to 120,000 Hungarian Jews. Wetzler got away with a kindred Jew named Rudolf Vierber, with the assistance of the camp underground, at 2 p.m. on Friday, April 7, 1944, the night before Passover. The 2 men moved inside an emptied-out concealing spot in a heap of wood that was being put away to assemble the Mexico area for the fresh debuts. It was outside Birkenau's security fencing inward border, however inside an outer edge the watchmen kept raised during the day. Different detainees set sheets around the emptied-out zone to shroud the men, at that point sprinkled the territory with impactful Russian tobacco-absorbed gas to trick the gatekeepers' canines. The 2 stayed secluded from everything for 4 evenings, to maintain a strategic distance from recapture. On April 10, wearing Dutch suits, jackets, and boots they had taken from the camp, they advanced south, strolling corresponding to the So, a stream, heading for the Polish fringe with Slovakia 80 miles 133 kilometers away. Managing themselves utilizing a page from a kid's map book that Vierber had found in the distribution center. You can peruse their report on Auschwitz here. Ravich was a Polish fighter, who was captured by Soviet occupation troops after the German-Soviet intrusion of Poland, at the point where the Soviet Union and Germany took over Poland. Ravich came back to PISK where NKVD captured him on November 19, 1939. He was taken to Moscow. He was first sent to Kharkov for cross-examination, and afterward, after preliminary, he was sent to the Lubyanka jail in Moscow. He professes to have effectively opposed all endeavors to torment an admission out of him in jail. He was condemned, apparently for spying, to 25 years of hard work in a Siberian jail camp. He was shipped nearby a large number of others to Irkutsk and made to stroll to Camp 303, 650 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle, to fabricate the camp starting from the earliest stage. The 9th of April 1941, Ravich asserted that he and his 6 partners got away in the center of a snowstorm. They hurried toward the south, dodging towns in dread they would be sold out, yet evidently they were not effectively sought after. They likewise met an extra-criminal, Polish lady Christina. After 9 days they crossed the Lena River. They strolled around Lake Baikal and crossed to Mongolia. Luckily, individuals they experienced were neighborly and friendly. During the intersection of the Gobi Desert, 2 of the gathering, Christina and Makovsky, kicked the bucket. Others needed to eat snakes to endure. Around October 1941 they guaranteed to have arrived at Tibet. Local people were well disposed, particularly when men said they were attempting to arrive at Lhasa. They crossed the Himalayas by one way or another in winter. One more of the gathering kicked the bucket in his rest neglected, and one fell into a precipice and vanished. Ravich claims the survivors arrived at India around March 1942. In its 29 years of activity, there were 14 endeavors to escape from Alcatraz jail, including 34 detainees. Formally, every break endeavor fizzled, and most members were either slaughtered or rapidly recaught. In any case, the members in the 1937 and 1962 endeavors, however assumed dead, vanished suddenly and completely, offering assent to famous speculations that they were effective. The most well-known and many-sided endeavor to escape from Alcatraz, June 11, 1962, saw Frank Morris and the Anglin siblings tunnel out of their cells, move to the highest point of the cell square, slice through bars to make it to the rooftop by means of an air vent. From that point they moved down a channel pipe, over a steel fence, and afterward to the shore, where they amassed a boat-type pontoon and afterward vanished. The trio are accepted to have suffocated in the San Francisco Bay and are formally recorded as absent and assumed suffocated. Be that as it may, they may have made it and gone to a spot where individuals didn't have any acquaintance with them. The Libby Prison escape was one of the most renowned and effective jail breaks during the American Civil War. Overnight between February 9 and 10, 1864, in excess of 100 detained Union fighters broke out of their POW working at Libby Prison in Richmond, Virginia. Of the 109 escapees, 59 prevailing with regards to arriving at Union lines. 48 were recovered, and 2 suffocated in the close-by James River. Libby Prison included a whole city hinder in Richmond, toward the north Lake Erie Street, associating the jail territory to the remainder of the city. On the south side round the James River, the jail itself stood 3 stories over the ground with a storm cellar uncovered on the waterway side. Day-to-day environments were very awful. The nourishment, once in a while lacking inside and out, was poor, and sanitation for all intents and purposes non-existent. Thousands kicked the bucket there. The detainees figured out how to break into the storm cellar region known as rodent hellfire, which was not at this point utilized because of rodent invasions, and burrow a passage Following 17 days of burrowing, they prevailing with regards to getting through to a 50-foot empty part on the eastern side of the jail. Re-emerging underneath a tobacco shed inside the grounds of the close-by Kerr's warehouse. At the point when Colonel Rose at long last got through to the opposite side, he told his men that the Underground Railroad to God's country was open. The officials gotten away from the jailing gatherings of 2 and 3 the evening of February 9, 1864. Once inside the tobacco shed, the men gathered inside the walled stockroom yard and just walked around the front door. The passage gave enough good ways from the jail to subtly undermine those jurisdictional lines and permit detainees to slip into the dim boulevards unchallenged. There can be no uncertainty that this man merits a spot on this rundown. He has gotten away not once, however twice, from high-security detainment facilities in France, each time through seized helicopter. He additionally sorted out the break of 3 different detainees, again with a helicopter. Payette was at first condemned to a multi-year prison term for a homicide submitted during the theft of a security van. After his first departure, in 2001, he was caught and given 7 additional years for his job in the 2003 getaway. He at that point got away from Grasse Jail utilizing a helicopter that was seized by 4 covered men from Cannes-Mandelieu Air Terminal. The helicopter handled some time later at Brignoles, 38 kilometers northeast of Toulon, France, on the Mediterranean coast. Payette and his associates at that point fled the scene and the pilot was discharged safe. Payette was re-caught on September 21, 2007, in Mataró, Spain, around 18 miles upper east of Barcelona. He had experienced restorative medical procedure, yet was as yet distinguished by Spanish police. Stalag Luft III was a German Air Force POW camp during World War II that housed court flying corps faculty. In January 1943, Roger Bushell drove a plot for a significant departure from the camp. The arrangement was to burrow 3 profound passages, codenamed Tom, Dick, and Harry. Each of the passage doorways was deliberately chosen to guarantee they were imperceptible by the camp watchman, so as to shield the passages from being identified by the edge mouthpieces. They were profound, around 9 meters 30 feet beneath the surface. The passages were exceptionally little, just 2 feet square, about 0.37 square meters. However, bigger chambers were burrowed to house the vacuum apparatus, a workshop, and organizing posts along each passage. The sandy dividers of the passages were supported with bits of wood rummaged from everywhere throughout the camp. As the passages developed longer, various specialized advancements made the activity simpler and more secure. One significant issue was guaranteeing that the individual burrowing had enough oxygen to inhale and keep his lights lit. A siphon was worked to drive outside air along the ducting into the passages. Afterward, electric lighting was introduced and guided into the camp's electrical framework. The tunnelers additionally introduced little rail vehicle frameworks for moving sand all the more rapidly, much like the frameworks utilized in old mining tasks. The rails were critical to moving 130 tons of material in a 5-month term. They additionally decreased the time taken for tunnelers to arrive at the burrowing faces. Harry was at last prepared in March 1944, yet at that point the American detainees, some of whom had buckled down in all the push to burrow the passages, were moved to another compound. The detainees needed to sit tight about 7 days for a moonless night with the goal that they could leave under the front of complete haziness. At last, on Friday, March 24, the break endeavor started. Tragically for the detainees, the passage had missed the mark. It had been arranged that the passage would venture into a close-by woodland. Yet the main man outdeveloped barely shy of the tree line. In spite of this, 76 men crept through the passage to beginning opportunity. Even through an air assault during which the camps and the tunnels' electric lights were closed off. At last, at 5 a.m. on March 25, the 77th man was seen rising up out of the passage by one of the gatekeepers. Out of the 76 men, just 3 dodged catch. 50 men were slaughtered and the rest were caught and sent back. Colditz was one of the most renowned German army captive camps for officials in World War II. The camp was situated in Colditz Castle, arranged on a precipice sitting above the town of Colditz in Saxony. There were various fruitful endeavors at getting away Colditz, however one specifically is the most fascinating. In one of the most eager departure endeavors from Colditz, building a lightweight flyer was devised by 2 British pilots, Jack Best and Bill Goldfinch, who had been sent to Colditz in the wake of getting away from another POW camp. The arrangement was to develop a 2-man lightweight flyer part by part. The lightweight flyer was amassed by Bill Goldfinch and Jack Best in the lower storage room over the House of Prayer, and was to be propelled from the rooftop so as to fly over the stream Mulder, which was around 200 feet, 60 meters, underneath. The officials who participated in the task fabricated a bogus divider to conceal the mystery space in the storage room, where they gradually constructed the lightweight plane out of taken bits of wood. Since the Germans were acquainted with searching down for burrows, not up for mystery workshops, they had a sense of security from recognition. Several ribs must be developed, dominatingly shaped from bed supports. Yet additionally from each other bit of wood the POWs could secretly acquire. The wing fights were built from sections of flooring. Control wires were produced using electrical wiring in unused parts of the castle. A lightweight flyer master, Lorne Welch, was approached to audit the pressure charts and computations made by Goldfinch. Despite the fact that the Colditz cock never flew, all things considered, a reproduction of the Colditz lightweight plane was worked for the 2000 Channel 4 Get Away from Colditz narrative, and was flown effectively by John Lee on its first endeavor at RAF Odeum, with Best and Goldfinch in sad participation. While Best and Goldfinch didn't escape Colditz, the camp was calmed by the partners similarly as the lightweight flyer was approaching finishing. They unquestionably had the most intriguing and inventive technique for executing it.